Does your vehicle have no heat? Maybe someone told you, or you think you need a heater core because it's plugged up and needs to be replaced. These are generally pretty big jobs. Do you have the confidence to tackle this on your own? Well, we're gonna help you out. Before you rip and tear the vehicle apart to replace the heater core, there's 5 things you wanna check to confirm that you actually need it. Number 1, check the coolant level. Number 2, check for coolant leaks. Number 3, make sure the engine is getting up to operating temp and checking the thermostat. Number 4, make sure the HVAC doors are operating properly. And number 5, make sure there is flow going through the heater core. Once you've confirmed that you actually need a heater core, order that from oneauto.com. You should also check out the app where you can get help diagnosing your vehicle, order parts, and watch installation videos. Let's start with checking the coolant. If it's not up to the proper level, the engine can still run and stay cool, but it's not pumping enough coolant through the heater core, which is going to give you the heat inside the cab. Next, you want to check for coolant leaks, especially if the coolant level is low. There you got to see where the coolant's going. But in some cases, there could be a leak and the level still looks fine, but you might have an air pocket in the system preventing flow through the heater core. Now you want to check the thermostat, make sure it's operating properly. If it's stuck open, the engine's not going to get up to operating temperature and pumping warm coolant through the heater core. You can monitor this on the dash if you have a temperature gauge. You want it somewhere around the 210 degree mark. If it's around 170, then the thermostat is staying open and it's not doing its job. It's going to have to be replaced. Or the return hose that goes to the radiator, be careful, but that should be piping hot when the thermostat is working properly. If it's not, if that hose stays cold, that means the coolant's just pumping through the engine, going through the radiator without warming up. Before we take this apart, you're going to want to make sure the blend door is working properly. There's an actuator that's going to open and close a door to redirect the flow of air across the heater core. If that's not opening or closing properly, then you're not going to get any heat or cold. We can have the car running and sometimes the airflow is going to change. You're going to hear a difference. So you can have it on cold first and then listen to how that sounds. Change it to heat. See if you hear a significant change in the wind coming through the vents. You could also have a temperature gauge and see if there's any change in temperature. The best thing to do would be able to look at the actuator when you're changing from cold to hot and see if the actuator is actually turning the door. Sometimes you can see where the pivot point is for the door, and if that's not working, chances are you need an actuator. This is the last thing that you need to check before confirming that you actually need a heater core. You need to know whether there's flow going through the heater core or not. Some vehicles will actually have a valve that has to open and close. If that's faulty, that could be your issue. But most vehicles, you just have hoses that come off the heater core that are going to the engine. One pumps coolant in, one pumps it back into the engine. If you take those hoses off and you put a funnel in one end, the other end in a bucket, you pour water through it, you want to see that there's a good flow of water coming out into the bucket afterwards. If there's no flow, if it's just the funnel's full of water, then it's not getting through the heater core. You're not going to be able to get heat inside the cab. You can also hook a garden hose up and with a little bit of pressure and try to flush out the heater core. Sometimes that works. Normally, that's just a temporary solution. It's not going to cure your problem. Eventually, you're still going to need a heater core. Some heater cores are easier and there's just a little door that you have to open and the heater core comes right out. Or some are more involved, like in our case where the whole dash has to be removed. You're going to have the AC refrigerant evacuated at a professional shop before you start working on it. Because airbags are involved, you want to disable that system. You're going to make sure the steering wheel is going straight. Then you're going to disconnect the negative cable. Different vehicles have a certain amount of time that you should wait after disconnecting the negative cable before you disconnect any of those yellow connectors. For instance, this vehicle requires over 2 minutes. At this point, this job is pretty easy. There's no specialty tools. It's all just nuts and bolts and panels. It's not like rebuilding an engine where everything has to be precise. As long as you follow the steps, it's straightforward. I think you can do it. We're going to pull the seats out, The center console comes out. A bunch of trim panels will come off so that you can access other components. To make it easier, lay the panels out in the order that they came out. So then you have a roadmap of what panels go where so you don't forget anything. To separate the bolts, you can use some different techniques, cups, bags, or even magnet trays, and it's a good idea to label them so you know which location those go. You want to look at the wiring harnesses and the connectors. Some of the wiring harness is going to stay with the dash as you pull it out, and some is not. You can see this wiring harness goes down below the carpet and it stays up against the firewall. Well, there's a couple connectors over here that connect to the BCM. Those need to be disconnected. And then this connector right here is the main dash harness. So you can disconnect this, and then a lot of the wiring that goes to the dash harness is going to come off with the dash. And then this wire is going to stay. You can also see where this vehicle has a center console. There's a wire coming down from the dash and going underneath here. And you want to follow that wire. That is going to come off with the dash. So you would want to disconnect this wire going back. And you can see it's just connected to a module right here. You can disconnect that module, and then that wire will be loose and be able to come off with the dash. So go around, look at the connectors that are attached to the vehicle, and make sure you get all those connectors disconnected. Here's another one. This harness stays with the dash. These harnesses go towards the body. You're going to need to remove the steering column. And the dash normally has a skeleton frame underneath, and there's some bigger bolts holding that on, mostly on the sides and then maybe on the top and some on the bottom. You want to take those bolts out, and then with an assistant, you both can bring the dash back, lay it down on some cardboard boxes or even some blankets or towels just to prevent any scratching. With the tips and tricks that we've given you so far, it's really not that hard to get to this point. Some vehicles you might have a heater box still attached to the firewall. Some are going to be like this, but you actually have to remove the heater box so that you can separate it. In our case, we have a door on the side of the heater box that when we take that off, we can pull the heater core out. Now, on this vehicle, you wouldn't be able to do that if the dash was still in the vehicle. There's other components that are in the way, so you need to get to this point for this situation. We got the old part out, now we're ready to install the new heater core that we got from 1AAuto.com. Now this job is fairly involved and it's going to be pretty expensive if you have to have it done by a professional. It's really not that difficult. You don't need any specialty tools, you just need to take your time and do it one step at a time. On top of that, the part is fairly inexpensive, so let's put this back together and see how we did. We got our heater core in, the heat's working again. I know you can do this too, and get your part at 1AAuto.com. You can watch the videos to help you install it.